Marshall and Notre Dame. We've got Notre Dame 20.5-point home favorites here in South Bend. The total in this game currently sitting at, it looks like 51.5 is what we're looking at here with the total here, Marshall and Notre Dame. It looks like it's stayed pretty steady around that 51.5 mark. Notre Dame, here's another team. Are you ready to win by 3 touchdowns or more coming off the grueling, exhausting, much heavily hyped game that it was last week for them against Ohio State? And I thought Notre Dame's defense, I was impressed. I mean, I know Jackson Smith and Jigba was injured early in that game, and it really threw you can't lose just one player and say, oh, we're done for. You got to have that's next man up mentality. I don't want to hear Ohio State offense using that excuse that, oh, we struggled because Smith and Jigba got injured early in that game. Bullshit. Next man up and give Notre Dame's defense credit. How about that? Maybe they played well. Maybe they influenced the way your offense played last week. So I give Notre Dame's defense a ton of credit. Absolutely. It was an outstanding performance against what was supposed to be one of the most explosive offenses in the country, and to hold them to 21 points, even though they lost the game 21-10, to hold Ohio State to 21 points. C.J. Stroud had just 223 passing yards in that game. I thought they balled out. They played their asses off on that side of the football. Marcus Freeman has to be proud of his team on the defensive side of the football. Now, on the offensive side, that's another story. They struggled. They had a tough time in that game. Buckner was only 10 of 18, 177 passing yards. They could not get the ground game going. Chris Tyree with just 6 carries for 28 yards rushing. That's certainly not going to cut it. Now, you're not facing Ohio State and their improved defense this time. You're facing Marshall, who last year, if you remember, defense was at times optional for them. We'll see if that Marshall team has improved on the defensive side of the football. On offense, I think they could be pretty good because now they don't have Grant Wells as their quarterback anymore. He's gone. His disasters are elsewhere. Charles Huff, the head coach, doesn't have to worry about that anymore with Marshall, that headache that is Grant Wells trying to run your offense. No, instead now he's got the Texas Tech transfer, Henry Colombi Colombi, I should say, as the quarterback for Marshall. And I think he's a big upgrade. This is a guy stuck behind multiple solid quarterbacks at Texas Tech. Now is getting his opportunity at Marshall.
And I thought he played well, though, too, when he got in a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, last year I thought he played well when he had the opportunity. So this is just one of those spots where it's a little dubious here to be laying 3 touchdowns. I'm leaning Marshall. I'm concerned that Notre Dame's defense is excellent and Marshall's defense may be barely average, if that. And if that's the case, even Notre Dame's offense, which struggled last week on the road at Ohio State, could be able to move the ball against a weaker Marshall defense. But I think Marshall offense, if they could be down, let's say 30 to 7 late in the game. And the offense, I think, has a capability, Marshall, to punch in a late touchdown and get you through the back door if need be. So it's just not the spot after that big matchup with Ohio State that I'm looking to lay 3 touchdowns. I haven't bet it yet, but I'm leaning toward Marshall here, especially if this hits 21 or higher. What do you think here, Conor Mac? Marshall, Notre Dame?
This might get there, too. I think Notre Dame obviously wins this game. I think Buckner, they'll be able to score on Marshall, I think, pretty easy. But I think Marshall might be able to get some points. But I was super impressed how Notre Dame's defense played. You talked about it against Ohio State. So this is interesting here. I never loved laying these points with Notre Dame. And then I haven't seen enough, even though their defense played well. The offense didn't do much. And, surprise, Ohio State's defense did well. But is that more of Notre Dame's offense, needs to get in rhythm? And this is a good game to do that in this one. So this one, to me, I don't love really at all. I need more points with Marshall, like you talked about. Give me over 24.5. Maybe I'll start thinking about it.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Charles Huff now is his second year as head coach at Marshall. He coached under Saban at Alabama before this. So, he learned from a good person to learn from for sure. And to be honest with you, Marshall is one of those teams that I think because they are moving to the Sun Belt this year, they've kind of been discounted, discredited. I think that's a solid football team. Now, again, their defense last year concerned me. Their offense, I think this year is pretty good. It's just going to be, can that defense, give them a chance here to hang within 3 scores. I think they could. And again, Notre Dame's offense, it's a work in progress. Let's be honest. It is. There's no question about that. Looks to be like it could be a little bit of a work in progress on that side of the football. You thought Jack Cohen, left a lot to be desired at quarterback for Notre Dame last year. That was a rough debut for Buckner. I expected a little bit better because I kept hearing he's got this great athletic ability and he's got a decent arm, and we just saw him really, really scuffle for a large part. He had a really good drive early in the game, early second quarter for their 1 touchdown, and after that, really didn't do much. I mean, 177 passing yards. He ran the ball 11 times, Buckner, and only picked up 18 yards on those 11 carries. So, yeah, looks like a bit of a work in progress here for the Notre Dame offense.